Welcome back to JPA Train Your Wealth podcast, episode 2. And this time we're going to speak to Charlie Rowlands, ex-professional footballer, now in the finance world as the business development manager. So welcome back to JPA Train Your Wealth. And as I say, we've got Charlie Rowlands here. Welcome, Charlie. Your
Thanks,
turn.
Chris. Thank you. Yes, my turn. Yeah, Chris wouldn't let me get away with it.
No. But the good news was you sat in the background and watched that one. And I know you said to me going, oh yeah, I'm happy with that now. Now I get it.
Yeah, I was actually really excited. Come away from watching Chris do his episode and thought that sounds like a lot of fun actually. So good.
Brilliant. Which is the whole idea, is that we're literally going to be chatting. We've got points that we want to cover on, but where this goes, nobody knows. Yeah. Which is probably less scary with you than Chris, because Chris can go anywhere. So
he does that to himself. So you haven't got to worry about that with him.
Right. I'm going to start with for me, the most exciting part, I guess, is the right phrase for me to use. You are an ex-professional footballer. Who for, and when did you stop?
Gosh, yeah. So I've played for a few professional clubs in my time. It kind of, the tiers are slightly different for women's football. You obviously don't get paid a huge amount, if anything at all, even in professional clubs, which is where the kind of conversations I had with Chris came from, in that he was quite shocked at the financial situation of players that are elite athletes. But to answer your question, the clubs I played for, the most recent club where I ended up retiring was Bristol Rovers. I was at Swindon Town, obviously local here, great club, Forest Green Rovers and Cheltenham Town as well. So more clubs than a golf bag, some say, but I enjoyed my time at all of them. And I just enjoyed playing so much. I loved being an athlete, and that is what I envisioned I would always do. So a big thing, again, my conversation with Chris was about that transition for me into finding my feet in the corporate world, in something that sort of gave me that same fulfillment.
Yeah, and I am going to come back into the football side, because I want to sort of pick into that a little bit more, because that's an area that I know people go, well, I don't know what you get up to. And so I want to go into that. But picking up on the point you made there, first of all, that transition into the corporate world, the professional financial advice of all things. You've made a point there that it was having that help of being able to do something now that the football is no more. What made you select financial?
It's really, I think it kind of selected me, because I found out about JPA through an advert for a job listing. I was looking at something in operations. I thought that's where my skill set, if I had one outside of playing football, would lie. I'm quite methodical. I enjoy structure. You know, I think it would have been for me something that I would have liked to have got my teeth into, creating processes, looking at departments and how they run and things like that. And finance was just because it was the sector that JPA were in.
Yes.
So I spoke to Jem and we had some initial conversation. And when I sat down, she asked about my CV and sort of my skill set. And I spoke to her about playing football my whole life and my character, more so than anything I've done in finance, because I didn't have any experience. And I was open about how, you know, I've never worked in this sector before, but I've got a great attitude. I love to learn. I really want to, you know, come and have a go. And she went home and spoke to Chris and said, I've just met the female version of you. And so Chris then got in contact and said, I actually think you would make a really good financial advisor. And one day that should be the aspiration. And so what would you say to coming in? We'll kind of create a role for you around developing the business for tailoring to the network you have in terms of women in business and women in sport. Chris found a kind of a gap in the market for that particular set of people, where he thinks they're completely undervalued, kind of not looked after financially in terms of their planning and advice, and thinks that I had the kind of personality to build that network of people, gain my qualifications in financial planning and advice, and then hopefully go and do what Chris does, but for my little niche of those people that I know and I want to help and kind of give back to.
I love that. So, I mean, I've got to be so careful, because all of this is just sparking so many questions and thoughts and ideas. But trying to keep it on track with exactly what you said there. This is great because this is not just a job now, which, as I understand it, the BDM role, the business development role, was not what you went for in that interview.
Not at all.
It's
no.
what they've created for you because they can see those skills in you, but with a longer term development plan for you that's got this objective, because obviously there's a lot of training involved to be a financial advisor. That's got to be wonderful for you.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what, like, I can't thank Jem and Chris enough for the way that they kind of have invested in me in terms of, like, I put a lot of effort, of course, into trying to showcase myself to them and show them that I had the attitude. I was willing to kind of help them try and build their company up. And I think their thought process with me is that they see the value in what I can bring in terms of, for Chris, this new sort of revenue stream with the new market, but also the fact that I think he's gone kind of blank sheet of paper, tell me what you want to do for a couple of years, because once you've qualified, I know that you've got the skill set to do, the proper job, which again, there's probably not many places you could go to that would allow you to do that kind of step by step and help me nourish in my career, which I think I kind of had a false start because I spent so long in elite sport. I didn't ever go and gain experience in corporate sectors. I'm not a corporate person. I don't have the corporate lingo. I'm not used to being sat at a desk all day. And so they're very accommodating for the fact that, I don't understand that kind of lifestyle, and they know that, I'm learning, which is great.
But one of the biggest things that I got from the get-go, from Chris in particular, and in episode 1 of this, is that I really think it came through, is that the ethos in the company set from Chris is that it's not about this predetermined, this is what should happen, this is how you need to behave. It's like, actually, this is about the clients. This is about delving into them and what do they need. And it's very personal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, that's the initial conversations I had with Chris. The feedback he kind of gave was that he was just so shocked at the real needs of people that have come from a background like I have, from elite sports, and being a woman in professional setups. The kind of advice that they would need to give is not what Chris would have gone into the initial conversation with that kind of person, thinking ahead of, like, what kind of problems are they going to have? What are their pinch points? They're completely different to what he was expecting, which then obviously he's really seeing now that there's a need for it. And he's really backing the fact that if we build something for them where they now know there's someone, a specialist in that area, they'll come.
Yeah, and I mean, we will go into this in more detail without question, but just to sort of be set in the scene before I come back to the sporting side again, is that there's an interesting challenge, as I understand it, in elite sport for the men, especially in football where they're paid incredible amounts. That's not being managed properly in a lot of situations. For you ladies in sport, it's even more important to be managed because you've not got the excess fat of money there. And so it needs to be managed properly, because the whole point being is your career's now over in sport. And if you weren't doing this now, it'd be like,
what do I do?
Yeah. And this is about the advice that you wish you'd had whilst you were playing, whilst that money of whatever size it was coming in. How do I manage this?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's helping people. I would be in a completely different situation in my career had I had the advice and support we're trying to give those people now.
Wow.
I would have been in a completely different situation from the beginning of my career, because I would have known how to plan. I would have known how to make sure that I'd set goals for myself financially and not just saw it as kind of that extra income stream. A lot of the time you have to work alongside playing, because what you're given for playing doesn't cover your mortgage, won't pay your bills.
Okay.
So it's making sure that you get the most out of your money, and kind of you're protecting yourself for, if you want to keep playing for another couple of years, but you're not sure if you're going to get a contract, can we make sure that, you've got that leeway to go and find somewhere else to play, even if you're not getting paid properly, things like that. There's things that you don't know how to solve those problems because you're so focused on playing. You kind of just need to forget about all of that. So if you have the support out there to do that for you, that's where you're then going to get the most out of yourself as an athlete.
Yeah. And I think it's good timing to say is that we're going to be desperately trying to avoid two areas in this podcast. One is we're not going to get involved in the political debate of the difference in salaries between the two genders, because it's a no-brainer, that one, but it's a thorny issue. We're not going into that as far as I understand it, because we can't change it, can we? So it's out of our pay grade. But secondly, equally, we're not going to be giving the exact advice on this show. It's about talking about there are things that need to be looked at, and we're going to be using you as a great example in this episode. Over the other episodes, we'll be picking into some specific points, so make sure you subscribe, get the notifications turned on so that you see when a new episode comes out. But the biggest one is that hopefully this is going to inspire people to go, I need to come speak to you. And the idea is reach out and you will go and meet with these people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that initial conversation is just a real casual, it's a coffee, have a chat, speak about our similar situations, talk about their needs, their goals, you know, what they think that they maybe need advice with, planning with. And, you know, we love being active. We love, you know, playing around a golf, talking about it over that, and it being, you know, that active way of it being more of a relationship building exercise, about talking about how we can help each other and support them, rather than it being, you know, I'm going to try and sell you this product. And
well, I know that in episode 1, Chris made a key point that the products are actually, strictly speaking, certainly at the beginning, irrelevant. This isn't about you should have this product. Actually, it's about what are you trying to achieve? Why are you trying to achieve that? Is it the right thing to achieve? Like, for example, I'm trying to think now, that it was a great example that going, right, is my motivation to be mortgage free as soon as possible so that I can go off and do other things? Or is it that I can actually grow my property size or portfolio, whatever it is, and I'm not bothered if I've got mortgages there? Well, then it's about looking and going, right, what is it you really want? Why do you want it? It might not be that you need, I was going to say an ISA. Is that the right word? Yeah, thank you. It's like going, why? Why do you want to?
And that's the thing is, like, with this particular set of people, in terms of women in sport in particular, the needs that we would be thinking of are completely different to those of your sort of Joe blogs that Chris would talk to day to day. And that the conversations I've already had with some athletes we've been working with at the moment are things like, I am a professional athlete, I'm on this contract, I earn this much for 2 years, I don't know what I'm going to earn after that, but I want to have a family, so I need to save for IVF, I'm in a same-sex relationship, I know I need to put aside this amount, I know I need to then protect my family, because what if I end up breaking a leg and I can't then play when my contract comes around for renewal, they won't give me a new contract. You know, there's all those things, those problems that Chris in particular was sat there thinking, I never would have thought about all of those kind of things that they need to be aware of when planning, that you don't have to think about when you're talking to the average kind of John Smith. Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to go into those details, and this is sort of set the scene of why you're here now, why you're perfectly placed to have those conversations. But equally, I just love that whole bit that JPA Financial Planning have sort of taking you on in this BDM role for now, whilst you're doing all your qualifications. So at the moment, it will be involving the likes of Chris with you to do all of those. So just reach out, have these conversations. That's the given. Right. Let's get back into some of the cool nitty gritty, that this conversational style content is all about. So Bristol Rovers. Is that where I admit I'm a Rovers fan, by the way? I shouldn't say that too loud round here, should I? Swindon Town, Forest Green, Cheltenham, who Rovers beat last weekend.
They did, heavily.
That's some cool clubs in the, you know, not too much travelling around those with those, so that hasn't interrupted. But what age did you start playing football?
Yeah, I was really young. I was about 4, and I played with boys the whole way through my childhood up until I was about 11 or 12. So I played, all my mum's friends had little boys. So naturally on the playground, at school, after school, I was just, you know, all the mums are together, so then all the kids are together.
But how did you get on with that? Because my daughter, she's now 14. For a little while, she thought she liked football. We got her these lovely boots and all of the stuff, but it was only the boys that she could play with. and she found that they wouldn't pass to her. I don't think she was great, I'm not going to lie, so I don't think it was her future, but these things stopped her even finding out. Wouldn't really pass to her, and potentially tackled a little bit too hard.
Yeah.
How did you find that?
I think for me, I think that's what gave me the edge of being a half decent women's footballer, to be honest.
Because you went, I'll show you.
Yeah, I think I relished the idea of the boys not wanting me to be good. So then when I was a bit better than them, and, you know, they eventually wanted me on their team over some of the other lads, that made me feel really good.
Because this must have been, and I'm only guessing, and I've lost track of time now, when women's football wasn't a big thing by that point.
Well, that's, again, I didn't have the option to play for a girls' team because there weren't any.
Okay.
So I was, or if there were, you know, I didn't know about them. They weren't accessible to me, and sort of nobody pointed out, you know, she's half decent. Maybe she should go and play for, you know, the local girls' team. It wasn't until I joined secondary school, so about 11, 12, and at school I was playing in my sort of PE classes, and the teacher said, right, we need to tell someone about you, and you need to go and do something. So at that point, the local club that they had contacts with was Forest Green, and they said, you know, would you like to offer her a trial? She's really great. We'd like you to have a look at her. And I went for a trial over the summer then and joined their academy and their team.
Okay.
And so that was it had been under 14s then. And I stayed with Forest Green all the way through till under 16s. And when I turned 16, they offered me a contract with the ladies' first team straight away, which was obviously brilliant.
Yeah.
And I took my opportunity there. That was more of a shock to me than playing with boys, in terms of, I remember my first training session and kind of getting the ball at my feet and someone just smashing through the back of me.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of was not used to a proper tackle. It was, you know, under 16s girls football, you put a tackle in, but you didn't necessarily fly in with a strong slide tackle. And suddenly I had grown women just like taking me out. And I remember them kind of saying, you know, you need to get up because otherwise you won't last.
Yeah.
This is it now, you're here. And that season at 16, my first season in ladies football, we won the league and I was the top goal scorer of the league.
Wow.
So, you know, from there it kind of all just projected. I went on the season after that to go to the Gostia Cup in Sweden, representing England and things like that. So it just kind of snowballed into a career that I kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I started at such a young age with boys and then grew into the game as a young woman. So yeah, I loved every second.
Timing wise, was this when the Lionesses were starting to get attention, or was that after that?
I would say I was in women's football when the Lionesses started to get attention. I remember quite vividly watching them on telly on like the red button, like in the middle of the night in a World Cup game, and it being really exciting to me. But I remember thinking, why is no one else interested? I was interested because it was football and it was my country. And I used to love watching the men's games with my dad and my family and things like that. But no one gave the same attention to the women's team at all. I mean, I think the average person then wouldn't have been able to name a player.
No.
You know, maybe Kelly Smith or someone who was the captain and got a bit more press. But nowadays, I'm pretty sure you could probably name the starting 11 from top to back, you know.
I'll tell you what, last summer, me, my wife and my daughter went over to Tenerife. And whilst we were there was the final.
Yeah.
Was that the Euros?
Yes.
And we actually made a point of finishing our dinner at the restaurant so that we could get down to one of the sports bars on the seafront to watch the game. Packed. Like we were already outside the bar getting served out there, looking through the open fronted thing. Packed, going nuts and all of that. And I was there going, this is brilliant. This is how it should be. And I tell you what, I know we're talking about you in football, but I will bring it up. You've made a key point of mentioning that your assistances to people, women in elite sport. Yeah. The Rugby World Cup over here was massive last year as well. Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing. I think women's sport in general, regardless of the sport, it's just growing rapidly and it's getting a bit more respect. And people are starting to invest in it and watch it grow because it is naturally, it's going to start catching up. And yeah, rugby again is something that some of the athletes I've been working with are heavily from the the rugby scene.
Is that professional for women in rugby?
It is, yeah. It's a different kind of situation to football in that they're given contracts through things like the governing bodies for the sport.
Okay.
So like if you're an international athlete, you get a contract through the RFU.
Yep.
And it's a very similar situation that a lot of those girls are expected to train full time, sometimes starting at sort of in the middle of a working day, but need to also work a job to make sure they can cover their mortgage and their bills.
Some are still not right there then, is there?
Yeah.
And I guess there lies the key point that why I said we're not going to go into excessive detail is that that's a point you've kind of gone, I can't change that. We disagree with it and hope that the evolution continues. I think
definitely.
And it needs to. It really does. But what you are able to help or, look at with them is to sort of give them that secure footing that their future's taken care of and that they can focus on that elite sport.
Yeah. And so then as it evolves, they don't need to worry about that because it's our job to kind of watch what it's doing and make sure that we plan and adjust things for them accordingly.
And that's why, and again, I'll make the key point that Chris made in episode 1. The reason why it's called JPA Financial Planning rather than a lot of them called wealth management, which has this connotation that goes, oh, I'm not, I wish I was wealthy, but I'm not. So there's no point in me speaking to you. It's like, no. It is not about that. It's financial planning. It's wealth management to sort of make sure that you have enough wealth around you in your future. Sure. But it is about, don't second guess whether you should or shouldn't be speaking to you guys. It's like, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, the industry of elite sports, even for women, there's a bit of a stigma around getting financial advice and support because those that come to you come because they assume, these girls are earning massive money. They're going to invest a certain amount of money with us. It's going to make me a lot of money, but they don't realize that that's not actually the case. No. So then, it's a little bit difficult because you can't trust those people that are coming to you and saying they're trying to help you, but actually when they realize you're not a high net worth client, suddenly the attitude changes a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, because if you said about investment and all of this, it's like no, it could be as simple as stability. Yeah. Because it can include things like mortgages. Yep. Pensions.
Yeah. I mean, and that's another thing. You're not really planning for retirement when you're playing. You're just focused on running your feet into the ground as long as you can.
It feels like it's too far away. I'll worry about that tomorrow.
Yeah, and is your club paying into a pension for you, or should you be looking at setting yourself up for retirement and making sure you put a pension in place for yourself if you're not, and things like that. Mortgages, is someone going to lend to you not knowing if you're going to have a career in a couple of years, or what are you going to be earning when you stop playing and have to get a normal job? Yeah. Normal being,
I know it. Yeah.
So, mortgages, pensions, all those things. And then just the normal everyday life things of saving, putting things aside for having a family, buying your first house, things like that.
Which again, Chris made a point that it isn't always wrapped up in something glossy. It could be, actually, no, just put it into a savings account. Yeah, sometimes.
Simple as that. And just having the structure of us, they don't need to worry because we've gone, right, this is what you need. This is your plan. You're sorted now. The same way that they have a coach for their fitness, you need to be able to run the bleep test at the end of the season.
Don't talk
this.
to me about bleep tests.
If you, do these workouts and it'll, give you a step towards getting there. It's the support that they have. They didn't have to worry about going home and thinking, how do I get myself fit? You've got someone there that gives you the plan and does it for you. Absolutely. So, we're trying to create that atmosphere of financial fitness coaching where we're just trying to help them be financially fit for their future as much as you invest in your physical self and your mental self.
And one of the things I've learned over the years is that includes, I'm going to use a mortgage as the most obvious example to use. It might not be that you're getting a mortgage right now, but there's a financial fitness assessment kind of thing and a plan of action that goes, okay, this is what we need to tackle over the next 6, 12, 18 months that will then put you in that position that goes, wallop, will.
Yeah, I mean, and even speaking to, Jacob, our mortgage advisor, is brilliant. And I've gone to him with questions about, some of these girls are going to be on a contract where are people going to lend to them if they then don't get another contract in 2 years? And he's done all the work behind the scenes to make sure I know the lenders that will, I know the lenders that won't. Yeah. So again, it's things that are just taken off their plate. They don't have to worry about, I don't want to go to someone who then will turn me down because of this. Jacob's got all of that in his toolkit, and they are just completely, he'll do all that work for them.
Yeah, perfect. And that's the whole point, is that JPA has got the experts in the different areas.
Yeah.
And even now, whilst you're officially on your training program for the financial advice coming directly from you, it's like, it doesn't make any difference. You're the figurehead with these people because you get the background and you're then using the team.
Exactly.
JPA Financial Planning is a team that comes to you, and that's all of that. I just love it because it must just give you such a passion every single day of knowing. It's all too easy to turn around and go, oh my God, accountants, it's boring. You're just talking numbers, but it's like, no. This is about people's future, people's stability, people able to follow their dream in that sporting career. These are the things that motivate you every morning, I can tell. Yeah,
and I think that's what it is that I don't feel like I've stepped into this corporate world where it's all about numbers and, KPIs and metrics and all of it. I don't feel that every day. My day to day is about Chris has just gone, go and make a difference, and, we'll back you the whole way.
Yeah.
And that to me is, I couldn't ask for any more from my, a job where I want it to be about helping people that were in the situation I was in. And now I'm being given this toolkit to go and do that. So it's brilliant.
Which I can see is a passion that comes from the company, from Chris and Gemma.
Yeah, massively.
That clearly went,
they
oh my God, we can help. And we've now got someone who's got the knowledge. Because, they wouldn't have the background knowledge to know where to go. Plus, there's the credibility. You've lived, slept and breathed that one.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I think, having those conversations with me as opposed to one of the other advisors. We could send one of our, very highly trained, high knowledge advisors to them, but if it was me and I was a player and a bloke in a suit and tie came and tried to tell me what it was like to be a women's footballer and that understands my struggles, I'd be a bit like, mate, come on.
Yeah.
Whereas, you send someone that understands because they were there. It was them, I've lived it. It was my experience as well. There's a little bit more credibility there that, I do actually understand what you're trying to talk to me about, and I know the feelings. I know what I would have wanted if I was you as well. So let's try and together build something that will help you out.
I can see that there's a whole angle as well. We'll stay focused on the elite sport, but I can see that there's a whole angle of women in business in general as well.
And I think that's, again, I think there's very similar transferable skills between those that are elite athletes as a woman and running your own business, because you have that similar attitude of, I'm often the only woman in the room. I'm often I have to work twice as hard to get what I want than, my counterpart. And I think knowing that they are going to have similar struggles in terms of access to things because of being a woman, that again was the motivation behind kind of trying to join those two networks together, because they're very similar people.
Makes sense.
And a lot of the time, these elite athletes will turn into women in business that end up with high achieving, high earning careers, because you have those skill sets of, the attitude, the determination, you've got that charisma of a hard worker. So naturally, as a woman in sport, 9 times out of 10, they're going to end up in a high earning, decent level, good sector.
Because the discipline that you have to have, the living with the structure, it's like kind of going, well, yeah, that kind of lends itself. I mean, I think back into the days, the people that I saw succeed in business, were those that have got a military background. And the reason why I'm saying that is there's a similar principle, isn't there? That you had training at these times, you were supposed to eat or not eat these things. And everything was about structure and goals and achievements and dealing with successes to keep going, failures to go again and everything else. And you go, yeah, it's kind of what we need in business. Yeah,
I think that, like, you've hit the nail on the head on all those things. I think it's that you have this overriding sense of not being afraid to fail. And I think that's a massive thing for business, being a business owner, but also asserting yourself into sort of a strong sort of senior position, coming from a background of no corporate background. You need to be someone that isn't afraid to give it a go and know that if I fail, you just kind of get up and try again tomorrow.
Which I guess, again, with sport, and I've always thought it's amazing how in any sport that you do this in front of however many people happen to be watching it.
Yeah.
And it's going to include, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to take that. I mean, if I trip in the street walking along and there's two people in the road, I'm like, oh my word, I'm mortified. You know, they've just seen me trip.
Yeah.
You're now doing all of this stuff in front of hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, you know, take your pick of what it is.
Yeah.
You've got to have a mental resilience for that alone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that is probably the biggest turning point for women in sport at the moment is the crowds are getting bigger. You're getting more attention through sponsorship, through, you know, people on social media watching you all the time. And you've got to be aware of making sure you don't let that get to you at all, which is going to be the transition that I think in sport in particular, they're going to need to up the ante on trying to help people deal with that mentally. But it's part of, if you make it to the top, you've already got it in you. Yeah. Because, you know, you're always doing it day to day. Yeah, doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. As long as you are doing your best, then you're fine.
It's good to hear that though, isn't it? Numbers are going up because that's what then of course drives the revenue that it's making, which then can hopefully start addressing some of those points with a bit of luck. Because obviously the money doesn't come from nowhere.
Exactly.
At the end of the day. Good to hear that the sponsors are involved, social media, that's a whole area. It's so cool. But what did a day-to-day life for you when you were a player, what did that, and I guess the most logical one is we talk once you went senior pro.
Yeah, so I guess, again, you had to work alongside playing football. So the main thing for me would be kind of planning my life around the fact that I needed to be at training because if I didn't train, I didn't play. But I also needed to be in a job where they were willing to let me do both because, you know, some jobs you could try and say to your manager, listen, I play football at a really decent level, which means I need to leave a little bit earlier than most because I need to get to training. I have a full day of training and then, you know, I might be in a bit late. We've got to travel away for the weekend at this game next weekend. I might not be in on Monday morning as early. And some workplaces will just outright refuse to acknowledge the fact that they'll think it's kind of the same as just the hobby that your other colleagues have. You know, you play paddle or whatever on a Saturday and it's just the same, but they don't understand that it's actually a career. And I think that for me was finding those workplaces I could work where they understood, which resulted in me finding jobs in things like elite sports environments. I worked for football clubs and they then understood because that's what they were there to cater for. So it meant that I had to often leave work a little bit earlier. I'd be eating my dinner at my desk at sort of 3:00 because I needed to make sure I was fueled, ready for training. Yeah. I'd then have to travel an hour and a half from my workplace to training, do a full sort of training session with the girls, do our analysis sessions. You know, you had to kind of manage your own recovery sometimes because I couldn't be there an hour before to get my massage or to be in the rehab room. So I needed to make sure I was looking after myself at home. And then on the weekends, it was all about game day. You know, nothing else ever filled my weekends other than the main thing was that Sunday at sort of 3:00, we're going to kind of go to war with each other. And I wasn't even worried about going to work on a Monday. It was, you flew into tackles, you got stuck in and, you know, your other part of your career was just there to feed your bills and your home and things like that. And your passion was playing football with your mates every weekend.
Okay. How many days a week would you be training?
So on the level that fluctuates. So when you're at the higher end of the tiers, you're doing 3 to 4 days.
Wow. And I say wow more from trying to have
alongside
a job.
Alongside your normal full-time career, yeah. So you're looking at normally your normal pitch sessions, strength and conditioning sessions, analysis sessions, and then of course, you know, your game days on the weekend as well. But it's some clubs try to accommodate the fact that they don't pay you quite as well as others, so you'll need to work by shifting training towards the end of the day. So maybe start training at sort of 5, 6 p.m. so that it at least gives you a chance to work in the daytime. Some clubs are just outright, you know, we train when we train and you need to find a job that works around it or, you know, find another club. Yeah,
which I guess it's a tricky one, both sides of that coin, isn't it?
Yeah.
What were the expectations and pressures on you? And I don't know whether we look at that purely from the sporting side, but I mean, we've been touching on the expectations and pressures life.
Yeah.
That's a given. But from a sporting, you know, it was giving your all, winning things.
Yeah, I think it's the expectations part. That's where it really comes into what we're trying to build because you're expected to be a professional and you're expected to behave as though, this is what you're doing and this is your life and your career, but they're not necessarily understanding, but I also have to go and work shifts so that I can, provide for my family, or I can pay my bills, or, that's where there's a gap, and where there needs to be more support for the athletes in terms of the expectations on them to have sort of any financial freedom at all while giving everything they can to stay in the career. A lot of women now are having to choose between, you kind of get into a crossroads where you have to choose between staying in the sport or building a career and a life for yourself, which is how I felt. So I gave it up and said, I'm going to go and find a high earning job. I've got a great attitude. I want to work hard. I've given my everything to football. I've done everything I wanted to achieve. I just need to now go and apply myself in a different sector, make some money, have a family, buy my first home. And I knew I couldn't do that in playing football. And I had to make that really difficult choice. And
you believe that could have been very different if you'd had the advice?
100%. If I had spoken to Chris while playing, I'd still be playing now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which kind of my next question was going to be, when did you realise football wasn't going to be forever? So the reality is, it didn't need to have stopped when it did.
No, and I think that's...
How old, I don't know, I'd say you're not going to answer if you want to, but how old were you when you did stop?
I was 24.
Jeez.
Yeah, so...
Prime.
Yeah, and I mean, that is, where you kind of, some players, that's where you kick on and go, I can really work really hard now, and if you've got the capacity to, which I just felt I didn't. I felt like I was sacrificing having a really great career by, because I was flourishing. I was working hard at trying to build a network so that when I retired, I would be able to get into a good high earning job. But I was missing opportunities because I had to also give to football. And then at football, I was missing giving my all to that because I was also trying to juggle building a corporate career. And I just felt it wasn't fair on myself to then end up retired at football, but at the bottom of the corporate chain. Yeah. And then it wouldn't have been fair if I'd, been sat in an office all day going, I wish I was playing football. So it's real difficult.
I mean, it's not a direct parallel, but I can almost see it where you see, sometimes you'll suddenly see, whether it's a coach or even manager or whatever, or even a ref. I've seen this a lot as well, officials. And you go, my God, they're too young to be doing that. And it was because they've had a career-ending injury, generally speaking. And you sit there and go, yeah, but that means they're perfectly positioned to be able to assist. And that is where you've gone, look, that dream has got to come to a premature end, but it's not wasted. I've got so much to give because of what I lived there, what I've experienced, and therefore what we can do. Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it applies to everything I do now. Like, I stopped playing, but knew I wanted to give back to the sport, be active. So I did my refereeing qualification.
Yes, of course.
So I referee in the men's pathway now, which is completely different atmosphere to women's football, but I'm still active. I'm still using all of those things like the discipline, my knowledge of the game and things like that all week. And I'm doing my best to progress in that. And it's something that you can manage alongside having a career.
Yeah.
And then again, I noticed as I grew older, these qualities and characteristics I've gained from playing a sport my whole life perfectly suit a corporate environment like finance, or in a particular thing, someone like Chris and the business Chris has built, the character I have seemed to align so well with what Chris wants for the people that work for him, which is,
I got that already, and I get it even more after this one, I have to say, there's no question. What was that transition of when you then went, I'm retiring from football?
Yeah, I think the most difficult thing for me was the loss of the social side of all of my lifelong friends I've made are from playing football. I went to school, I had, went to sixth form, I went to university, and all of my lifelong friends that are my best friends are from the people that I saw every day playing football with.
Really?
Like a lot of people will say they met their friends at school and, they stay in touch, but I don't talk to anyone I went to school with because when they all were out playing in the evenings, I was at football training.
Of course.
And when they wanted to go to a house party and drink on a Saturday, I was at home eating chicken and rice ready for my game on Sunday.
Or competing or whatever, yeah.
So, I had to sacrifice a lot of that stuff, and you gain that back tenfold in the friendships and the relationships you make at your club. So then I was worried, you know, what am I going to do when I don't have social interaction every evening at training and get to have a laugh with my mates on the bus on the way to the game at the weekend? And you really do miss that, but it doesn't just stop. They're still my friends. We still have a great laugh, and now we can have a few beers and do different things.
It's not quite as strict anymore.
Exactly, yeah. And, you know, we'll play golf together. And I think I always thought that the place I worked at, I was so worried I would end up in a place that I would sit there and think, I hate being here because you're all just corporate. You all just want to have the small talk and then sit at your laptops all day in silence. And then obviously I found JPA, and, you know, I'm in the office and we have great banter. I feel like I'm in a changing room sometimes and we're all,
I can imagine,
you know, having a great time. But similarly to football, when you know that you need to get your work done and you have to turn it on and you step on the pitch, it's no longer banter, having, you know, a laugh, and it's serious. We're here to do a job. And that's, again, at JPA, they have such a good balance of, you know, we've all got a job to do. We know that we're very good at it. We can all get it done, but we've all got characters and we have a laugh, and they're my friends.
I love it because I've just seen that analogy as well, is that yes, it was all the social, the banter, everything like that. But then when think about any sport, it doesn't matter what the sport is, doesn't actually even matter what gender it is on this one, is that then suddenly game time, game face, bang.
And as soon as you step foot over the white line, you know, it's a completely different, you end up shouting, swearing, screaming at each other because you demand more from each other. Absolutely. And you want more. And I think it's important also in a workplace to have that relationship where you can demand more from each other and you want your peers around you to kind of raise their game, because that makes you feel better, makes you feel good.
I know, with how strict you've been with me on setting all of this up for your series, you definitely are.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Stalin in that way, I am.
But what was hardest, practically to the change or mentally the change?
That's, again, really difficult, because I think, I was so concerned about staying active.
Yes, I've always thought about this.
You know, you go from training 3-4 days a week to kind of being sat there. And I think you initially have this euphoric, oh, this is great, I can just sit and watch the telly. And then you put on a bit of weight and you go, oh, I better get back in the gym.
Yeah.
And then you have to find something that I don't think ever before I'd felt the thing that normal corporate, I guess, people feel, where they go to work all day and then go, I cannot be asked to now take myself to the gym for 2 hours.
I've got at the minute, yeah.
And it's difficult, it's a struggle, and I get that now. Whereas before, I couldn't wait to finish work, and I was itching to get out and start running and kick a ball and have a ball at my feet. Whereas I don't have that same passion for now having to make myself get out there and be active.
Really?
Yeah. So that's a completely different mental and physical struggle. I'd say they're very much 50-50 for me.
So that's not a passion and a discipline that carries over necessarily, because I've always been told that if I can really get myself going to the gym, that it becomes addictive.
I'd say it's definitely still a discipline because I make myself. And I think if you weren't from a background where you had the ability to tell yourself, no, you're going, and you get up and you do it and you go, and when things are hard, you do one more because you want to beat yourself. That is in you. And so whether I'm doing that at the gym or whether I'm playing tennis with my missus, I still want to beat her, and I still want to make sure if she wants to, I can do an extra mile, I'll do 2. And it's, you always have that in you, regardless of if it's for fun or if it's competitive. But I think it's definitely, it's more of a task because I've gone for a whole day at work sat at my desk. And now I have to get myself up for going to the gym. Whereas before, the work was just a little side task. And the main thing I was doing that day, everything I did was ready for going to football.
Yeah. I mean, I know, you wouldn't know it looking at me now, sadly, but that's why I make that comment, is I get that corporate trap in reality. But I used to be a national level swimmer when I was younger, and I was training twice a day actually during the week at its height, and then competing everywhere on the weekends. I could eat anything. It actually, although we were disciplined, I could actually eat anything and I wouldn't put a gram on.
Yeah.
Then you stop and you forget that doesn't apply anymore. And suddenly you do. If you look at it, you suddenly blow up.
100%. And that's the thing, is you have to be so much more mindful about your own physical activity. Whereas before, that you didn't ever have to think about it because you were always doing more than you needed to be to maintain yourself.
And there's this irony, isn't there? I don't know why I've gone off on this tangent, but I'll wrap this one up. But is that you kind of assume, but if I'm going and doing all this physical exercise, I'm going to be exhausted. But actually, you've got less energy if you're doing nothing. 100%.
And I find that now, on a weekend, if I get up on a Sunday, I know I haven't got football, I'll be thinking I could sit in front of the telly, it's raining, I'll have a cozy day in, order something for breakfast and sit and watch the telly. But the best thing to do, because then I'll be snoozing on the sofa and I'll be like, I'm so tired today. But if you get out, go for a walk, take the dog out, go for a quick jog. It doesn't have to be anything crazy.
No.
Go and play paddle, play golf. Yeah. And that then it does energize you and it gives you that, you've just done something that you didn't want to do. You feel
but
a
the
little bit better
mind
about
tricks itself, doesn't it? It goes,
100%.
Just chill out. But then you got to have a nap to get over your sleep.
Yeah. And I think that's what I don't have is that I am constantly, if I'm sat down, I'm constantly thinking about the next time I'm going to move. And I think that's from that. I was always waiting to go out and do something physical. Yeah. So now if I'm at home, I get home from work and in the evenings, I can't just sit in front of the telly. I have to go and, let's go to the driving range, or let's go for a run, or let's go for a walk. My lunch break, when I'm working from home, I'm running at my lunch break because I'd rather do that than sit and watch a telly for half an hour.
Yeah, I get that. I may have already asked this, but I'm going to put the question out there. What did you not feel prepared for?
I think the long and short of it is everything. I don't think I ever gave any of it any thought, which is where I think is where we can be helpful. I think I was so focused on playing and what I was doing now, what I was earning now. I wasn't thinking, but in 10 years I want to buy a house. I thought, well, if in 10 years I've got the money, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And that's just not how it works when you are not planning for your financial future. And I think just not knowing what support was out there, I didn't even know that I could have gone and got myself a financial advisor by going down Fairford High Street and walking into a building. I had no idea, or looking on a website and saying, I didn't know that these services are available to the normal person. Like you said, you think it's for the wealthy.
Yeah, that I want to go and invest in stuff. And it's like, no, it's not. Just
and
that.
they can help you with your everyday financial problems, financial goals. You don't need to be in money trouble. You don't need to have a surplus of money.
It's like going to a doctor for a health check or something, isn't it?
And I just think I wish I had tried to coach myself financially as much as coach myself physically and mentally.
Plus that external view takes away all your, I don't know what I even want to say, habits or what you think is important at that time. We've all got that, it'll never happen to me, or that's ages away. How are you going to overcome that challenge that what coulda, shoulda?
Yeah.
But you also know where their mindset is right now, that they're kind of going, it's fine, it's ages away. It doesn't matter.
I think that's the goal for me, is to help these women feel like I'm not trying to patronize them, that, I was you. When someone older than you says, I'm much wiser, I've been around longer.
Back in my day.
And I want it to be more about how these are things that should be a standard, and if you buy into it with me, everyone around us will start going, we should be doing that. But we need people to invest in that journey with us for it to have any effect. And I think that's the thing for me. It mainly was protection for me. I think I now look at all of these women and think, you need to be protecting yourselves, because something had happened to me. I was in a fortunate situation that I worked hard alongside playing. I know now that you can't do that because it's growing.
There's the irony, isn't it? Yeah, that means the time that needs to be given is going to be growing with it.
Yeah, and as much as they're maybe paying you a little bit more now, I know it's still not enough.
It's not linear, is it?
And you need to protect yourself, and that's what it kind of, I have this sense of wanting to make sure that they don't fall into the traps that could have happened to me.
It's great because I've got even more questions here, but I think we've really been answering them as we go. What are the key things? I know we've talked about investing for a rainy day, and we possibly have covered this, but what tends to get overlooked financially? What's the biggest things that get overlooked financially?
I think protection in this case. So, critical illness cover.
Of course.
Things like that. If you break your leg and you then cannot earn because your job depends on you being physically able, what are you going to do? You can't then potentially, if your job outside of football is football coaching or, you know, things like that, you need to make sure that you're protected. And that was never even suggested to me as an elite athlete at that level. No one ever came to speak to us to say, you know, you're an athlete, you need to make sure that you're protected. That was never a case. And if it did, it came from outside agencies that would message you on Instagram, you know. And
you'd go,
yeah, or you'd think like, oh, they just want my money.
Yeah.
So you kind of sidestep them like they were being sharks. But
yeah,
protection definitely, I think access to people that I would have loved to have had something at my fingertips, like someone like Jacob to speak to about, I know I earn this amount of money now for this 2 years. I'm going to ask for this salary for my next contract. Will I earn enough to buy a house? Or shall I keep renting? You know, what are the markets doing? Yeah. Things like that. Just having the knowledge of those people around you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love this because I'm even going to, we don't need to answer this one, but I love the fact that I had a question here that said, what from football has helped you most in your career now? You've made that so abundantly clear that I love it. I love seeing that. And I often sort of think, do you look back and remember when you were playing and you had these skills, these disciplines? Did you already know that these were transferable skills and disciplines?
I think I learned quite quickly that the reason that I had always been able to do well academically, and when I was doing things like job interviews for stuff, just for the part-time work I had to do alongside football, the characteristics that people liked about me were the things that were because I was playing football, because I was wanted to achieve, and I had a can-do attitude and positivity, and I was a leader and things like that. And those are skills that people look for in the corporate world that often people have to learn through life and through jobs. Yeah. Whereas I had learnt them from the age of 4, playing how to be robust against the lads, or then stepping into
and then the women's first team, bang.
You know, learning how to have that maturity and the discipline of going to training when in the rain, in the cold, and you know, making sure. I don't envy
you that.
Yeah, things like that. You know, I couldn't miss a day of training. It's more personality building that then gave me a personality that I felt made me able to know when I go into a job and it's difficult and some people will struggle and kind of crumble, I flourish in that sense.
I get that. Plus, being a top scoring striker, you're a glory hunter.
Yeah, and we've spoken about this a lot at JPA, but my favourite thing is when everyone tells me I'm doing well. So because I come from this background of my job was to, everyone's worked really hard, but then I get all the credit. And so it's the same at work.
Keeper's been an onslaught and she's kept them all out.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You got 2 goals though. You're the hero.
Yeah, and I'm exactly the same at work. I mean, you can ask Chris, but I beg everyone to tell me how great I am all day.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. And there's me being flippant with that as well. Last few things, because I'm conscious of the time, but how does training translate into financial planning?
Yeah, and I think that's something that I kind of touching on with the financial coaching. I think I wish I had set time where I went, you know, once a month in my football schedule, I'd go, right, I'm having deep tissue massage because that aids me be able to play better. I don't have to think about, you know, my body recovering. I've got it booked in. Someone's helping me do that. If I made sure I had, you know, a review of what my contract is doing every season booked in, or every 6 months, you know, these are my plans for next year, my contract. Then the next 6 months, this is the contract I've got. How does that differ for me? It would be in my head. I wouldn't have to sit at home or at the training ground, hearing the girls talk about buying a house or having kids and think, oh, what am I doing with the money I've got? I know it's taken care of, and I've got someone booked in that's going to advise me and give me that ongoing reassurance of, you know, whatever your situation is, we'll help you plan towards that main goal, like you said, whether it's being mortgage free, saving for a house, saving for IVF, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm sort of like making sure that some of these we maybe already covered. Do you see similar challenges in women's sport and business, and what tends to get underestimated?
Yeah, there are definitely similar challenges, which I touched on previously in terms of that, you know, you're often not given that same access to resources, support, because, you know, you're the woman in the room. And I think the main thing to take from that for us is that these are very similar people So you're going to need similar support, and you should talk to each other. And I think, like I said, a lot of these girls that are coming out of playing football are going to want to be around women in business that have that similar character to them. And they're going to want to work for people like that, or learn from them because they're also starting their own business, and they want to talk about, you know, oh, what kind of stuff did you do? You know, how can you help me in my career now? Especially
if they're starting out, then, you know, for a period of time, things are going to be fallow. You know, it's not going to be lucrative yet, and you're banking on the future and you're striving towards it. So I get that.
Yeah.
What would you tell someone going through a big career change?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think for me, it's to plan ahead in terms of, I think the transition.
Before you do the change?
I think know what you want from the transition. Know why you're doing it. Understand what, you know, are your base level needs from making this change. I think that for me is what I, again, wish I had done a bit more of, is go into finding my first feet in the corporate world. And I mean, I'm lucky that the situation I found myself in is perfect for me.
But it could have been very different.
But it makes me realise, I think, had I gone into JPA and it had been all the things that I hated, what would I have done?
Yeah.
You know, because you need a job, you have to earn your money, you have to pay your bills, and, you know, you have to know what aligns with you, and be aware that you've got a very particular set of skills as a footballer.
There's a film that says that.
Yeah, they're going to copyright that. And make sure that you are aware of that, because they are going to help you when you go for job interviews. Use them to your advantage. Make sure they understand the character you are, you know, the abilities you have, because there's jobs out there that think that that's a massive plus and they'll let you flourish.
And equally, I would actually add to that with, if you were going it on your own, that was the big career change, you know, especially when we're talking women in business and the like, is make sure that those attributes that you really emphasize when you're in job interviews,
use them.
Your potential customers should be knowing about those skills, those attributes that stand you out. Yeah,
use your personality. And, you know, it's all about creating connections with people. And I think that's, for me, I wouldn't want to give advice once I'm qualified to anyone that I didn't feel I had that connection with, and they understood how I work. I understand what they want, because it's all about that trust. And for me anyway, that's what I would want.
One lesson from sport that applies to money.
I think I would say, I think again, it's that being prepared. For me, I never went into a game not knowing the plan. You go you've got a game plan. You know, when we sponsored Swindon Wildcats, they asked us for a slogan to go on our advertising board. And I said to Chris, it should be your financial game plan, because you never, when you're in a sports setting, go into a game training without a very sort of strict structure and game plan for what's going to happen. And I don't think it should be any different for financially what you're doing.
Because you're able to use the examples of that. Doesn't mean you know everything that's going to happen.
And you'll make mistakes. And, you sometimes, the tactics mean you need to chop and change things.
The officials are rubbish, or whatever it might be.
Going your way. The markets change the same way that, you go 1-0 down. Yeah. It's just that you need to be prepared for having a plan and having people there around you that support you. I mean, a football club, you're full of physios, strength and conditioning, sports scientists. There's all these people there to support you to be physically able. You kind of need that in your financial life as well. You get solicitors, you get, accountant to do your tax returns. So why wouldn't you get someone to help you plan for your future?
Yeah. Final piece then. What, if you're now reaching out, people are watching, what do you want to appeal to them about, and how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think the main thing for me is if you feel like you're in that similar situation and you can understand what I'm talking about, you're in that kind of category, now is the time to come and speak to us, because we've got this product ready to go. I've got all the time in the world to be going out, taking you out, speaking to you about your problems and trying to help you fix them. And all of the advisors are really keen on buying into this initiative at the moment, and they want to help and they want to talk to you. So get in touch. Obviously you can email us. You can pop in. We've got office in Fairford. And again, it's not just regional to the area we're in. We've got an office in London. We've got an office in Solihull. You know, there's plenty of places that we'll cater to, we'll travel. And I just want women in sport and women in business in particular to know that that's my job. I'm here to help them. And
that's a key thing to say. Obviously, JPA is broader than that, but this is an area that JPA have decided to really try to provide the assistance, and you in particular lived it, breathed it, well positioned, empathetic, all of the above. And don't think, oh, it's something I should do in the future.
Yeah, get ahead of
now.
the game. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's what we're here for. So the support's there now. It's just time for people to come and use it.
Love it. Charlie, it's been absolutely amazing. We could go on talking about so many, and we probably will do over future episodes. Yeah. Thank you so much for this. Very open, very candid. I think it's been great fun and a real great insight. And I think that people are going to be much better off with you doing what you're doing now as well. So
thanks, Chris.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us on JPA Train Your Wealth. I hope that was interesting, entertaining, all of the above. But most importantly, I hope it was helpful as well, and reach out and see how Charlie at JPA can actually assist you. We'll see you on episode 3. Cheers.